Welcome to Decades of Horror, the classic era.
Haven't I convinced you of my sincerity yet? I'm genuinely dedicated to your destruction.
This is episode 92, recorded February 7th, 2021.
Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Jeff Mohr. On this podcast, we cover the good, the bad, and maybe even the ugly horror films released since the beginning of time through 1969. In each episode, we'll discuss the monsters, spirits, psychos, and villains that have haunted movie-going audiences since the dawn of film history. With me this week are my incredible co-hosts, Whitney Collazo, up first, an accomplished artist, makeup artist, and writer. How are you, Whitney?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. We got to have the weather report. It's like it was minus 13 when I got up this morning. Oh, raining?
Raining and cold here.
It was minus 13 when I got up this morning, and now it's -1. So just, you know.
Dang, Jeff. Here in North Carolina, it ain't near that kind of.
Next up is Chad Hunt, co-host on the Decades of Horror of the 1970s and 1880s. And a comic book artist and writer, and a film producer and director. And
Sadly,
a father.
yes.
And a husband. How you doing, Chad?
I'm awesome, man. I'm awesome. It's good to be here, and we're going to talk about a pretty cool movie tonight.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it. I got nothing funny to say is actually what I'm trying to say. So. But you should have, while the Gruesome Magazine banner was flying, I did pick my nose. I got away with that one scot-free.
Nice.
It was.
I'm never mind.
I don't have to go to the doctor now.
Oh boy.
Shiminy.
There goes our mom.
Joseph Perry is not with us. Joseph Perry is not with us, but back again is Daphne. Daphne, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you guys.
Poseur.
I can't point.
There. I'll do it for you guys.
This way. I can't do it. I can't.
I didn't watch enough Brady Bunch as a
How
kid.
you doing? Daphne, this is Daphne's second appearance. She did Phantom Carriage with us just a few short months ago. So it's good to have you back.
It's great to be here.
Hope everybody's fired up about this one. We are doing a Roger Corman film. Tales of Terror, released July 4th, 1962. They shot off fireworks for the release of this. Directed by Roger Corman, written by Richard Matheson.
Yay.
From loosely based on Edgar Allan Poe stories. Did I say it was Tales of Terror? I can't even remember.
It's
Yes.
Tales of Terror.
It's Tales of Terror. The cast is Vincent Price, who's in all three of them. He's the only one. And then supporting him are Peter Lorre, Basil Rathbone, Maggie Pierce, Joyce Jameson, and Deborah Paget. Three tales of terror involve a grieving widower and the daughter he abandoned, a drunkard and his wife's black cat. That sounds kind of freaky. And a hypnotist who prolongs the moment of a man's death. Yeah. So this thing came from, it was actually an Alta Vista production, but it was also American International, so I don't quite get that. Distributed by American International. Also known as Der Grauenvoll Mr. X. I don't know why it's not Herr X in German, Mr. X, which means the horrible Mr. X. I don't know who Mr. X is. Mr. X, the guy talking, doing the narration, or what? Makes no sense. Also known as Schwarze Geschichten, which is black stories.
Cover your mouth when you say that.
I got a pop filter here in case I spit all over the microphone. It was filmed in Virginia from November 28th to December 1961. A total of 3 weeks, like a week a story. Don't know, I have any idea what the budget is, but the domestic gross was, it depends where you look. IMDb says 3,270,000. Wikipedia says 1.5 million, and UltimateMovieRankings.com says 5 million. So I'm thinking it made money. And I think, I think this is, without getting too far ahead of us, I think this is one of those movies that I saw like 2 or 3 years later as a summer matinee series, when you're a kid and they have movies on like Wednesday afternoons or something. Yeah. And I think they did a whole series of these then, because I remember seeing it in the theater, but I'm pretty sure I didn't see it in 1962. So maybe that's why the numbers vary. Taglines, not a whole lot of taglines there, Chad. So, we do your best. All
right, I'm going to try. A trilogy of shock and horror. That's 3. Everyone, 3.
And in case you didn't catch that,
it's terror times 3.
And that's it. I don't know.
That's
People
it?
aren't really. Yeah. Now, if you listen to the trailer, there's all kinds of great taglines in there, but for some reason they didn't bother with it. So let's get to first impressions. And Whitney, this was Whitney's pick, so we'll go with you first. When did you first see this, and why did you pick this?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
why
did I pick this? I mean, it's Vincent Price. Why not? I mean, well, yeah.
Absolutely.
So because we could watch something else with Vincent Price, and my memory was pretty vague because I remember watching the Morella story, but I couldn't remember much of the other two, and I thought it would be nice to revisit this one. And you would think that with those stories that all 3 would be questionable, but the thing, I guess it just boils down to going, okay, this is a picture, knowing Vincent Price's stories, and like you said, they're loosely based on Edgar Allan Poe tales, and so knowing that he's pulling strings on characters from each story and playing off on, I don't know how to say it. It's just bringing himself into pictures, 3 different pictures, and just revisiting the characters that we're going to see. I don't know how much to really get into it, but I feel like it's kind of cool to get into see that snide character, that drunkard kind of character that he plays, and then just some of the there is some comical, like he has but it's not just all him. There's Peter Lorre in it too, in some of these stories, the Black Cat one. But no, I'm gonna stop rambling. I just think this one was just fun. It was cool, and so that's all I have to say right now. We'll steer more into it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chad Hunt.
Yes. He called me Mr. Everybody.
Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to give away your alter ego, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
When did you first see this, and what do you think of it?
I grew up watching this on different TV stations growing up. I would see this, and as I got into horror more and more, I learned of Roger Corman, and then realizing that this was a Roger Corman movie. And just, I really dig it. It's a fun fun movie. Anthologies are always fun because there's, even if a couple of them really stink, the stories, there's maybe one or two that are really good. And but this is one where I really enjoy all three stories. You've got serious stuff, you've got comedic stuff, and then you've got really scary stuff, which I found the last one to be particularly chilling. But I've always enjoyed this movie, and Peter Lorre is great. Basil Rathbone is there, and which I knew him from Son of Frankenstein and Sherlock Holmes and those movies. So it was cool to see him, always see him there, and to see all of these guys together, and not together, but all in one movie at the same time was really, really a cool idea to me. It was always a really cool idea, and it still is, because I really enjoy this movie a lot.
Yeah, I did too. Daphne, or shall I call you? Is it Le Poseur or Mademoiselle Poseur?
Mademoiselle Poseur. I hadn't actually seen this before.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, what are your first impressions?
I really liked it. I was excited to see it. I think I'd gotten it confused with other anthologies that maybe had a similar title. But I mean, I love all these guys. I can't believe I haven't seen it before. And I like Roger Corman, so I was really looking forward to it. I liked all the stories. I watched them a couple of times, and I feel like each time I watched it, I got kind of more into it and appreciated it more. I loved that Vincent Price was this over the top sometimes, but then other times he was almost subtle, and there's a couple of scenes where I was like, wow, that's nice. And I love Peter Lorre, of course, and Basil Rathbone. I didn't know he was in it, and he was a creep, super creep. I only just know him mostly from Sherlock Holmes, but so it was a lot of fun. I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
nice pick.
He is a super pick, super creep,
super creep.
Yeah.
Ooh, I thought we lost our monetization on what I almost said. That
was close. So, Tale of Terrors. Yeah, I used to always get this confused with Comedy of Terrors. Now that I've seen both of them again, now I can keep them straight. But I like this a lot, and I think it's a great showcase for Vincent Price. He does a great, surprising. I shouldn't say this. I'll probably get bad. I'll probably get mail criticizing me or comments criticizing me, but he's kind of hammy sometimes, and he's just right on. He's doing a great job acting, I think, in this, and plays three totally different characters. The especially the comedy one in the Black Cat with the wine taster. We'll talk about that here in a little more detail. And I also love the other guys in it. In the first one, Morella, it's pretty much just him, Morella, and then his daughter Lenora, Maggie Pierce, and what was her name? Gage.
Yeah.
Leona Gage. I was going to say Lenora, and I thought, no, that's too close. So, yeah, and then the second one, he's paired off with Peter Lorre and Joyce Jameson, who are both in Comedy of Terrors. And then in the third one, he's paired off with Basil Rathbone, Deborah Paget, and an actor named David Frankham. And Basil Rathbone's also in Comedy of Terrors. So those four characters just carried through, right? And I think that was like the next movie they did. It was Comedy of Terrors. I'm not sure. Anyway, I liked him a lot, and I love Peter Lorre. So let's look at some of these guys. So, I mean, Roger Corman and Richard Matheson. I tried to find pictures that were roughly from that time period. So, Matheson too. paired together on pretty much, I think, all of these Poe pictures, except there was one that Charles Beaumont did, and I forget which one it is. It might be Mask of the Red Death, but I'm not sure.
The Premature Burial, Charles Beaumont.
Premature Burial. Okay.
And the Haunted Palace, it looks like.
So any comments about these guys? I mean, I think the writing's really tight on these. And he kind of switches effortlessly from this, the two end pieces to the comedy in the middle.
Yes.
Chad? Yeah, I agree. It's the tone of each one is very different. And the directing style, I don't know so much about how Corman has kind of a not very distinctive style to how he directs. But as far as story-wise, I thought the writing on it, in Matheson, you can't go wrong with Richard Matheson. So all three stories were very different, very entertaining, very well written. And for such, short 30-minute pieces, the characters were drawn out very well and very interesting characters at that. And I think when you have guys like Vincent Price and Peter Lorre and Basil Rathbone and those guys reading your dialogue, you're going to have something extra special there anyway. So, but yeah, I thought it was a great how each segment was different and yet very effective and very, very good storytelling.
Yeah. Other comments? Just fire away when if something triggers.
Yeah. Honestly, I really think, kind of echoing what Trad is saying, the stories are all different. I mean, but it's hard. It's hard in writing to, I guess even with Chad or anyone that has done creative writing or writing, like you usually kind of go to your favorite thing, or you're challenged in something else, or even screenwriting. It's like, oh, well, I'm just going to write horror or that kind of thing, or something a thriller, but there's just drama in Morella. And then in the second Black Cat, there is some comedy. And then in the last one, it is more chilling. There is some suspense. And I like that there's a different style in each or theme in the style for each story. And I can't put enough emphasis in knowing, for me personally, how hard it is for me to write something comedic. I don't know what it is with anyone else's experience, but I admire anyone that can write comedy and implement it into something horror.
Yeah, I thought everything that you guys have said, but I thought that the characters were really, really good too. In these short picks, it's like the writing was really sharp, like you said, succinct, and I really felt like each of the characters were pretty strong. I totally felt like Morella was a huge character, even though she's only in like 2 minutes of it. She's all over that story. And just each of the characters I thought were really, really well written, and there isn't a bunch of extra stuff. And I thought it was really great.
Yeah, I did too. They're right on the nose. They're like 25, 30 minutes a piece, and the thing's done in an hour and a half. They got a little narration to lead in, lead out, to tie it into the actual words of Edgar Allan Poe. So let's talk about the individual stories. So Morella, at least here, and I've read all the stories, but I'll admit I don't remember Morella that well. But in this one, Vincent Price is married to Morella, and she dies in childbirth, giving birth to their daughter, Lenora, and tells Vincent Price, the father, that that the baby killed her. And Vincent Price sends his daughter off, I guess, to private school or something. And in this story, she's coming back 26 years later. In the meantime, he's just kept his wife, laying in bed, apparently upstairs, dead. Although there's something going on there. So there's like her spirit's still alive. Her drive for vengeance, whatever that is.
And
Was there anything?
There is something keeping her alive, and I think it has to do with something about those red Twizzler vine candles that were everywhere in each segment of this movie. I can't tie it together yet, but I'm working on it.
They definitely had a supply of red candles. Yeah,
the ADHD in me would not let me look away from those red Twizzler-like, candy-like candles in each.
I was blown away with the spider webs, the dust. I mean, I was like, well, okay, it's been 26 years, but holy crap, those things were thick. Yeah.
And apparently he's worn that same robe for 26 years.
Oh gosh.
Did you notice there was a lot of blues in this? The woman, like his daughter, wears this rich blue dress and hat, and then he's wearing that kind of purple and lavender blue almost.
I swear I've seen him in this robe painted on the sides of vans back in the 70s. With big hats on, with lightning coming out of his fingers. I'm positive I've seen that.
Oh gosh.
Some of them are similar lady. I thought so. I'm going to pull something up here because this to me is kind of interesting. So Leona Gage plays Morella, and this is what we see of her. So the one on the left there is her laying there, and that's actually a matte painting.
Oh,
over her face. Did you know that, Chad, or could you tell that?
I had no idea.
They said that in one of the commentaries. Because I
Wow.
kept looking at it and going, that's really weird. That doesn't quite look like makeup. And Albert Whitlock did it. Is that?
Yeah, that's my main man, Albert Whitlock.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that this was one of his. But you can kind of tell looking at it now that the mouth is kind of not where it's supposed to be, but it's just off-putting. It's weird looking. Maybe it's the whole face isn't a matte. Maybe just from the nose down is the matte part. But it's very effective and scary looking. I know that.
Very creepy.
I never would have guessed that was a matte painting. That's so cool.
No.
I didn't either. I kept looking at it and going, this
me.
is just weird. This is crazy. Yeah.
Well, they got the best guy to do it.
That's the big. Yeah. What? So that's a big gasp scene. At least it was for me. And then the next shot on this slide is her laying in bed, and that's kind of a big gasp scene too, because he thinks, well, the ghost. That's pretty good too, actually. The ghost comes up and strangles his daughter, and that ghost was kind of cool. I thought. I mean,
I really liked the ghost.
Wasn't anything real fancy. Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. The way it went up the stairs and everything.
Just seeing a shadow figure just doing its thing like that.
Yeah, kind of wispy trails around it and stuff, and strangles the daughter. The daughter dies, and Vincent Price, although we're not sure she died because she keeps making a few noises, and then Vincent Price pulls the cover over her when he walks away, and then she makes some more noise, so he goes back to pull the cover back, and all of a sudden her hair is no longer blonde and it's black. That's I thought that was a great reveal. That was so then she looks like this beautiful woman that was on that slide.
Oh yeah.
But the one on the far right here, that's like a traditional ghosty, with long fingernails. She never actually looks like that in the movie. She was made up to do publicity that way. But they took a bunch of pictures and did publicity, and then that never happens. That's not even part of the. So I don't know if she was going to be like that when she went up the stairs as a witch or something, or the ghost, or what the deal was. But yeah, so one of those deals. The advertising stills weren't what they were supposed to be. She does it. She does a good job too.
Mm-hmm.
So any other comments about Morella? Well, yeah, we get the big fire and the no, that's later. There's a fire. Yeah, they like fire in this, don't they? The fire of the building was the only part of the whole movie that was really kind of lame.
Yeah.
It's
like for the last 26 years he's just been walking around throwing gasoline on curtains, chairs,
right.
just in case one of those Twizzler candles falls over and starts a fire.
Everywhere outside.
Yeah.
Then it explodes.
And then when they show the distance shot on it, it's really bad. It's like glowing.
But given it a fair shake, it is only like a 25 minute segment. So they had to have it quickly.
Absolutely.
Out of the whole movie, that was the only thing that I thought looked good. So
we were kind of talking about the writing, and I really liked the sharpness of it, and I was really impressed with the actress that played the daughter. And I just thought she was really great, and she was super strong, and I thought like you could tell that she had her own identity in life and had decided she was going to go back and see her dad. And I loved that when they were having that conversation down in the kitchen where she was talking about her relationships with men, and she said, I cannot give, you see. And he just looked at her and said, like, I see. And it was like I felt like, I know this is a wacky movie, but it was like he totally understood her. They were the same. They needed each
nailed
other.
that relationship.
Yep, exactly.
What that relationship was all about.
Yeah, and they totally needed each other. How quickly he turned to kind of regretting what had happened to his daughter, and just being open to her, and her being released. I just was really impressed with that. And like I said before, with Morella, the character of Morella, she was totally a strong character throughout the whole story, and you only see her like in a few minutes, but I felt her presence the whole time, like her over this heavy thing over this castle and their relationships and stuff. And so I that's probably Matheson, and it's awesome.
Matheson is really good at getting a lot of ideas through with very little words. I mean, if you've ever watched The Incredible Shrinking Man, there's some profound stuff in there. With just a few simple lines, he lets your mind just go poof and open up to all these possibilities and stuff. And so I think that's what he was doing here. With just those few lines, he just really encapsulated their whole relationship, and which was really good writing.
And I loved how Vincent Price was, sometimes not totally hamming it up, but just their quiet conversations together too, that were just simple, short. Vincent Price did a really awesome job just being those two different extremes. So yeah, I thought it was really good.
And Maggie Pierce had a fairly short career. She did she's got 44 credits, and her last one was when she was, I think, 36. So one of the things she did was she played the wife, I think Jerry Van Dyke's wife, on My Mother the Car.
Oh, really?
She's in all 30 episodes. I got to look and see. I can't remember. Was his name Crabtree? Yep. Yeah, so she was his wife. And I could see her.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you mentioned the costumes, and wow, she looked good when the costume she was wearing. It was really great. And I loved the color and all the set decorations. Everything was so lush. Those
are really rich colors, aren't they? But yeah, like a lot of people this time period, she did like 4 episodes of Wagon Train and all the other recognizable TV shows. The 3 episodes of The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, and she played 3 different people in
That
2
sounds
seasons.
about right.
Yeah, I love it. A lot of cool television things. But I could see her in a sitcom. I think that's part of that kind of classic look for the couple. She had that sort of wholesome look.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you read a little bit about Mary Leona Gage's life?
Yes. Go ahead, though.
That played Morella, that she was a dethroned pageant beauty.
Yeah.
She sounded like she had a interesting and intense life. Disqualified.
Mm-hmm.
Married
Because
young.
didn't it turn out she was 18, married, and
Yep.
and had kids,
yep.
so they stripped her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think she had a suicide attempt, and it was sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she did live to be over 70, but I think I read that too, and I'm trying to remember. I thought there was some discussion that she was a pretty good actress, and they would have expected her to do more, but she had all these other issues that just caused her problems. That I'm trying to remember what the deal was. Married and divorced 6 times and had 5 children. So anyway, yeah, we always run into that, I guess I should say we frequently run into that where people have some. You think of people being in movies and like they got it made or something, but they really don't. Let's see.
Okay.
Whitney, you suddenly got smaller.
There's a Steve Martin joke there somewhere.
It's the incredible shrinking woman.
Hey, she's wearing a Poe sweatshirt.
I am. Cool. Yeah. I was like trying to keep up with that, but I don't know what to do now. Okay.
You're cool. You're cool. So you were trying to say something about Morella. So I'll cut all this stuff out in between if you remember what it was.
Oh, okay. So
going, what? Huh?
Yeah.
Did you say something?
Are you serious? Don't play with me.
Oh no.
Yes. I'm sorry.
No. I changed my name and now it's
I saw that.
All right. So Daphne was saying how the dynamic and the writing was one extreme to another with Vincent Price's character and how he played off of his chemistry with the daughter. And I can't agree more, because in the beginning he resents her so much, and he calls her, even he says, your murderer is here, or you're the murderers of he calls her murderer as soon as she gets there. And he's really mean to her at first. Yeah, I mean, that's the
not
one
winning
thing.
a Father of the Year award.
No.
Yeah. No, it's like I feel like when I started watching this one and revisiting it again, I'm like, oh man, there's daddy issues all over this in some way. Poor girl, because she seems like she really wants to be there and tell him, like, look, 26 years and I'm sick. You're sick too. So that kind of thing, it's pretty sad, especially when Daphne had mentioned when she said, I can't give. Like, they do have some things in common, though. Vincent Price's character, him as the father, he thinks they don't have much in common at all, and he resents her existence. So, yeah. That's what I was trying to say before everything went to crap on my end.
Well, he definitely resents her existence.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting deal.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm a softie, but I actually I bought that he could turn on a dime like that. Like he was so I don't know, overwhelmed or so sad or so messed up that all he needed was a lifeline, and then he just grabbed it, and then they were tight. That was it. That's all I needed.
Well, he had 26 years to think about it.
Exactly.
You know?
And there was a couple things I noticed when I watched it. At first I was like, gosh, you're being kind of cheeky. But when she walked in there, I'm like, people never closed the door when they would go into these big castles. They would just walk right through the door and leave the door open, and then just start walking around. They closed the door. I don't know why that got my attention. And then the door slammed, and I was like, oh, they probably needed that to startle, for a startling effect or something. But yeah, maybe it's just being petty.
Yeah.
Well, this is
I could see that.
one of those ADHD things we talk about sometimes when the ghost is strangling his daughter. He gets up and then he walks down the hall. He doesn't run or even really walk fast. And then he goes in the bedroom and he stops and turns around and shuts the door. And I'm thinking, you're the only two in the house. What the hell are you shutting the door? And aren't you worried about her?
I'm trying to be discreet.
Apparently. But yeah, it was good stuff. And what about so the Black Cat? Now this is one of my favorite Poe stories is the Cask of Amontillado, and this is merged with the Cask of Amontillado, basically. And I don't know why people always do that. Maybe it's just Corman does it all the time. It just seems like I've seen several versions of this where it does that. So what do you guys think of this? So Peter Lorre is the drunken husband, Montessor Herringbone.
The greatest name in any horror movie. I'm sorry.
And he's always hanging out and getting drunk, and he comes home and he wants more money, and she says, we don't have any money, and she goes, well, you haven't worked for 17 years. The honeymoon is apparently over, and he keeps trying to panhandle from people, and every time it's just a great comic turn. I kind of wonder how many of those were ad libs, kind of, because he's really good at that stuff. I actually think Peter Lorre is one of the best actors of the first half of the century, really.
Comedy in it really took me by surprise. It was just like bam, all of a sudden it goes from the story before to that. And yeah, Peter Lorre was awesome. He was hilarious. He the whole, like, why I said poseur, that whole scene where he's like, you coward, you poseur. It was just hilarious. And he was great. He was cracking me up. And when Vincent Price was doing
what? Sounds like something.
Nice one. When Vincent Price was doing the wine tasting technique,
oh my God.
I was like, wow, man, they're going for it. This is hilarious. Yeah. Wasn't expecting that at all.
Did you guys notice in the credits there was a consultant? They had a special consultant to help them with the wine tasting facts.
Yeah, can you imagine that guy trying to teach Vincent Price how to do the wine taste and the conversations that must happen?
So funny. So
they
funny.
did the same.
My tongue the right way when I go little.
Well, that little silver special little thing you carried around, wipes it all off.
That was cool.
And then nobody was warming up. Like he was warming up. Ooh, ooh,
yeah.
It was just like,
he's doing that thing with his
that was all amazing stuff.
Yeah. So in the meantime, Peter Lorre gets kicked out of the bar, and he doesn't manage to panhandle any money while he's telling people he's a moral cripple or a veteran of the Revolutionary War, or finally to one guy who just goes, "Give me some money."
Yeah,
Like,
he's like
none of
he
his
just
other-
says, "I want money." Like he's
I want money.
yeah,
Yeah.
he has no shame.
Yeah. So
Isn't the
Eddie
lady that
Wonder-
played his wife in this one the same lady that played his wife
It
in
is.
Comedy of
It
Terrors?
is.
Uh-huh.
yes.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought, yeah.
I've got to say, I like her a lot better in this one than I did the
Yeah.
other one.
She
'cause
didn't
her
sing,
voice-
that's why.
Yes, I was gonna say, her voice was what really got me in the last
Yeah.
one. And that one, I can't stand her voice, but I like her a lot in this one. Her performance, I enjoy her performance in this one. The other one, it was all right, but it was just that singing that I couldn't stand.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's. So yeah, so Peter Lorre gets kicked out. He wanders into the wine tasting thing. He challenges Vincent Price, and it's just hilarious because Vincent Price does the whole, swirling around in his mouth, and
Mhm.
I don't know what all this stuff he was doing. Peter Lorre takes it
Switching it
a full
around.
glass
He just takes the whole glass.
Mhm.
and it off,
And the disgust on Vincent Price's face when he sees him do it, that was just
and
awesome.
then he tries to coach us the proper. In civilized society, we do it this way.
You do it your way, I do it my way.
Mhm.
So that was great. Well, then, of course, Vincent Price gets hooked up with his wife, and Peter Lorre then figures it out and kills his wife, and then decides to wall them both up in the basement, right?
Mhm.
And this cat that's been the bane of his existence ends up inside the wall and alerts the police officers by its wailing. Although Peter Lorre's character, Montessor,
Mhm.
Herringbone, he's hearing the voices talking to him, the people. But so when the cat starts wailing, and the police officer's like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, you can hear that too." There was so many great lines here when he was bricking up Vincent Price. Vincent Price looks over at Peter Lorre's wife and says, "You murdered her." And what does he say? "You don't miss anything, do you?"
Oh, yeah, you don't miss
Yes.
anything, do you?
Yeah. Well, I
It
mean,
was such a
even before that, the scene where the wife, she's supposedly gone to bed earlier, and it's that
Yeah.
back and forth there. He says, she says, "Yeah, I must have overexerted myself," and or something,
Yes.
and he says, "You overexerted yourself," or basically
Yeah.
that conversation. It's like, yeah, about that. So, and of course, later he picks up on that where he gives himself away when he goes drinking,
Mhm.
and he says to those guys at the bar, I don't remember what he said, but they caught on to him there at the bar.
He
when-
says, "I don't have to
She's
ask
not-
my wife for money anymore. She
Yeah.
just gives it to me."
yeah,
Mhm.
like it's not a problem anymore, basically. And they're like,
Right.
what?
What? Yeah.
When did that start?
Yes, I think that was, yeah. There was a question.
Well, he
Yeah,
does
since
a great.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Since when?
He
I
shows a
think it was
great
the bartender that turned him in, which
Yeah.
had to be a hard decision for him to make. Do I have this unending stream of
Mhm.
revenue coming in through this guy, or do I report the murder? I'm glad he had a sense of morals.
Right.
Well, Lorre shows a nice range here because he's playing the buffoon most of the time,
Mhm.
but then when the scene you were talking about, Whitney, where he goes up to the bedroom and the bed's unmade,
Yeah.
and his wife
she's
comes
there.
up and says, "Oh, I've seen you've already gone to bed," and then
Yeah.
he like really goes evil on her. He turns
Mhm.
into that evil Peter Lorre, remember from past
Yeah.
Mhm.
horror movies in the 30s, and that he's still got that in him. And he
Mhm.
turns that on in a second.
I think
I
he
just
also
remember-
was really good at he was his own worst enemy, kind of like Whitney was saying. If he would just shut his mouth, he would have been able to get away with it. But
Pay
he
attention,
had to
yeah.
kind of brag and stuff and make such a big deal.
Yeah.
And he was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
The classic error. Oh, I suppose you think they're behind this strong
Strong wall.
Bang, bang, bang.
My favorite scene, the whole thing there was when he's in the middle of putting or walling up. I think it was when he was walling up. He's like, "Can you keep it down? I don't like much noise," or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite was the keep away with his head. That was the
Yeah.
The what?
the keep away game with his head. They were throwing his head back.
Oh yeah, that was
He's
great.
like, "Hey, stop that! That hurts! Don't do that!" They're like throwing his head back and forth.
Yeah.
But speaking of his dreams, that snake or whatever that was, that was definitely part of his hallucinations or something. Yeah, because that was really strange.
Yeah, he was having like delirium tremens or something. He was definitely hallucinating.
I did like that shot with when he's giving the alcohol to Vincent, and right when he says, your death or something, we're celebrating your death, that camera angle was down to his left. And it was just, and it was, I loved it. It was perfect. It was just like, I don't know what the word is for it, but it was so nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
I also liked the dead makeup. I also liked the dead makeup on Vincent Price and his wife. I thought that was pretty good. Just when they're downstairs, kind of playing with him and stuff. I thought that looked pretty cool.
So the third episode or the third story was the case of M. Valdemar, where Vincent Price is dying. Basil Rathbone is a mesmerist, and he's going to hypnotize him. There's a guy named David Frankham that plays the doctor. Vincent Price's wife is Deborah Paget, who I had a crush on when I was a kid. She's absolutely gorgeous. Looks far too young for Vincent Price in this movie, but I shouldn't say that. So
they aged. They did something with his hair a little bit in this one, didn't they?
They made he was sort of streaky gray, I guess, maybe.
I feel like they did age his hair a little bit more in this one too, so he would look a little bit older in this one because of that too. I like this one a lot. I thought all of them were really good, but Basil Rathbone in particular, he sold the hell out of and as did Deborah Paget, sold the hell out of Vincent Price rising, the dead Vincent Price getting up and being scared. I bought that.
I liked when the doctor was calling up Basil Rathbone, and he said, "Take care, doctor." And then Rathbone just was like snapped and went right into the bedroom to start his little experiment. It was just something about how he just didn't have time to talk, and he was going to get in there and do his thing.
Yeah. This was the scariest one of the three, I thought.
Yes.
And the creepiest one. And one of, as watching this as a kid, when Vincent Price ended up getting up out of bed at the end. And, as a kid, that sent shivers down my spine. And then he just melted away into liquid, he just melted away into nothing. And they found him.
Yes.
That did it for me as a kid. That just scared me to death. Kept me up nights.
The liquid petruscence or petrubescence.
Yes.
Petruscence. There we go. I thought I read something about that. Maybe that. I read two different things about that. One of them was they poured this. It does say mixture of glue, glycerin, corn starch, and makeup paint. At one point, I heard him calling it a caramel syrup. that they poured all over him. They just kept pouring more and more over his face before you got to the. And then the last scene I could think was poor Basil Rathbone laying with that oozy thing across him. He's thinking, oh, my career. But he does a great job.
What's that he said in Comedy of Terrors? Every time he would come back to life, he would.
What place is this?
What place is this?
Yeah, and Vincent Price
I
said
half
that.
expected him to say that. Yeah.
Vincent Price said that in this movie when he was hypnotized and dying. He said, "What place is this?" I don't know if he brought that forward, but
you mentioned that there was a wine tasting expert for the other one. Did you notice that there was a mesmerism technical advisor at the end?
Yes, yeah, no, that's what I was trying to come up with. Technical advisor and a hypnosis technical. So we know what it's like to hypnotize somebody to come back from the dead.
Right.
Oh my.
You guys are doing it all wrong. It's green, red, yellow, not yellow, red, green.
Oh my gosh.
Although I got to say that spinning light with the different colors reminded me a little bit of Motel Hell.
Oh
yeah.
They
wow.
had spinning discs in front of the guy buried in the ground. But yeah, I thought this was the scariest one too, and the way they electronically altered his voice, and he was like talking from the other side.
Yeah.
And apparently some time passed there too. They don't really say much, but you kind of figure it out. I don't know how much time it was, but you're hearing Vincent Price wailing upstairs, and
and he's just sitting downstairs filling out the light bill.
yeah.
I do wish he'd shut up there.
You must, well, and then he forces Vincent Price to say, "I want you to marry Dr. Carmichael, not Dr."
Right.
Well, yeah, because he wants to ensure that she's happy, because he did say to her, he said, "I refuse to die until that happiness has been assured." And I feel like that's part of why he hung on the way he did in the story. His character did.
Yeah.
Was obviously for her.
So in the commentary, there was some interesting stuff about this. The guy that plays Dr. James, isn't that his name? Yeah, Dr. James. David Frankham was kind of a young actor, and he was scared of not holding his own with like Vincent Price and Basil Rathbone. And there was a part, and I don't remember who told him this, but it was like Roger Corman talked really quiet.
Yeah.
And he also was like Mr. One Take. You do one take. And so he asked him if he could do another take at one time, and Corman kind of shut him down. Well, one of the other actors said, if you think you need to do a takeover, like you can do better, then just make a mistake before you finish it. Oh, okay. Otherwise, Corman, he wouldn't let you do it again. And then there was some stuff in there. Did you notice there's twice, and she's not very big. I think Deborah Paget's like 5'4" or something like that. He has to pick her up twice, but she faints. And apparently he had a hell of a time doing it. To the point of where,
Wow.
One time he tried several times and couldn't do it. And somebody was like, Deborah, can't you help him? And so she like pushed up with one of her legs under her dress while he was picking her up.
Oh my God.
You just see Corbin like going, oh my God, not that I'm making you do something you can't do. You're costing us time here. So yeah, that stuff was funny. And then I wish I could remember his name. There was a guy on the commentary that was friends with Joyce Jameson, and I think we talked about this a little bit with Comedy of Terrors, but she was kind of a tragic story. And she ended up committing suicide, I think at 50 something. And part of it was she was so self-conscious about, she had gained weight and was so self-conscious about it. She had like an audition or something. Everybody was excited for her. And this guy was trying to always cheer her up and stuff. And she'd had problems with depression. And so it was really kind of a tragic thing. Clint Eastwood liked her a lot and used her in a couple of his movies, you know, to keep her doing stuff. I think, was it Every Which Way? I know we talked about this before, but I just to hear this guy talk about it. Oh, Outlaw Josie Wales.
Yeah.
Some Love Boat, some stuff. But anyway. Because I thought, and another side of that was that she was really a pretty smart person, I believe. She was a graduate of theater arts from UCLA, so she had a degree, but she kept getting these parts where she played somebody that wasn't all that smart, you know, like maybe like the woman in Comedy of Terrors, or the woman on the what did they call the two women on the Andy Griffith show?
The blonde. I remember she was the blonde. I think they called her the blonde.
They had the nickname for her. Well, the other one was that had a real raspy voice.
Fun Girls. That was it. The Fun Girls. Yeah.
They were always trying to get Barney and Andy to go out with them, I think. But I always really liked her, and it's a shame that another one of those. I don't know what else to say about it. Maybe I shouldn't bring those things up, but she got some.
I'm glad you do.
Yeah,
it's sad, but I'm glad you do. And it's like, you know, two of the women and two of the actors had problems.
Yeah. Well, let's look at these are the three characters Vincent Price makes. So, and Sans mustache in the first one. If you see him in that first one, you're kind of thinking, oh, he looks a little different. Didn't have the mustache on, and that was when he was warming up in The Black Cat, I think.
Yes. The wine tasting.
Yeah.
So 3 completely different looking characters done well done.
Yeah.
And then each of these had sort of a key female. I mean, we had 2 in the first one with Leona Gage, but Maggie Pierce, Joyce Jameson, and Deborah Paget. And Deborah Paget is another one that she actually, it seems to me, I'm going to sound really stupid if this is wrong, but did she marry a Chinese millionaire or something?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I couldn't find much on her when I was looking her up.
Yeah, third husband, Louis C. Kung, was a Chinese-American oil company executive and a nephew of Madame Chang. So I think that's when she got out of the business fairly early. But I remember seeing her in, is she in, I want to say, well, she's in Broken Arrow with Jimmy Stewart. Yeah, she did a whole series of Westerns and stuff throughout the 50s and 60s. A couple episodes of Wagon Train. You got to get those in there. No Batman. No. And her last acting credit is like a couple years from now, 63, 65. She played in a couple episodes of Burke's Law, which was a Gene Barry show where he played a lawyer. I can't believe how much TV I watched when I was a kid. I look down these shows and go, oh, I know all these shows. I always thought she was a pretty good actress. And last but not least, we have our 3 guys that we've been talking about. Peter Lorre. And that's David Frankham, who was also, and there wasn't a second male lead in Morella, but then there was 2 in The Case of M. Valdemar, and that's a David Frankham, and Basil Rathbone is one of those guys I just love. And I know we mentioned this before, but he's like one of the considered to be one of the top fencers in Hollywood, swordsman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And I think he was sort of sad about or thought maybe playing Sherlock Holmes was a mistake. Did you guys ever hear that?
No, I never heard that.
Oh, that it kind of took him, he was getting into Shakespearean stuff and getting, some of the like Robin Hood swashbuckler type roles. And then he does these 14 Sherlock Holmes films. And then all of a sudden, is it doesn't die, but it's, now he's working for IP,
Yeah, I could see that because mostly what I think of him is Sherlock Holmes. I don't think about him as anything else.
But I will never turn off Sherlock Holmes. If there's a Sherlock Holmes, I watch him. I love the guy that plays Watson too. Is great. And he's doing stuff like Hillbillies in a Haunted House and The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini and Queen of Blood.
I gotta watch some of these.
All right, back on track. So I think we've about covered everything. Anything anybody wants to say, Whitney? This was your pick, and you disappeared for a while, so I want to make sure you get your your child. Well, it's not your fault. I just mean we.
Yeah, no, I can't help it. My laptop ended up freezing and doing weird things and restarting doing the updates, but yeah, when I'm trying to do stuff. Like talk to you guys about stuff that we enjoy. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, when you showed the images of Vincent Price of each different character that he played, that is the reason why I was drawn to it in the first place, was him like playing different characters and different and these stories. And so I wanted to refresh my memory on that because I couldn't. And I feel guilty. Like, how could I forget some of these? How could I? But it's fun to go back and look at some of this stuff because, you've had your way of saying, Jeff, he hams it up. But oh my gosh, I mean, how can you not love it? How can you not love him? And especially for me, why I really enjoyed Morella was because of the subtle, dark, the gothic horror and the aesthetic part of that story, and also knowing that story had almost that toxic relationship between the father and the daughter, and there's something, that unfinished business that needs to be done. And then in the Black Cat, and of course seeing there's that toxic relationship between Peter Lorre and his wife, but it's because he is an alcoholic, and then he's sizing up the difference in competing with Vincent Price, and then Vincent Price takes his girl and then they end up meeting their demise there. But with the Valdemar, that one, Chad is right. That one is one of the most terrifying stories, especially because there's no way for him to escape, and the only way he could escape is for what I said before, is when he says to his wife, he would only make sure her happiness would help him release. And knowing that he was just that, I guess, earthbound because of that hypnotic and that dead state was because of Basil Rathbone. And I just love that all of these stories have had a different theme. I don't know, I'm just rambling on and on, but I love each story because of it makes him come out into these different characters, these different personas, and then you can, I don't know, you just love it. Even though he's a horrible person, you just you really enjoy that performance. That I don't know what else to say.
Even somebody
Yeah.
playing a good character is fun to watch. you know,
Yeah.
so it makes it fun, even though he's a jerk, or whatever.
Mhm.
If the actor is doing a really good job of that, that's what makes it fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I agree with Whitney on that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Chad or
And this makes a
Poseur.
pretty good bookend
Comedy.
to Comedy of Terrors. Poseur.
Yes.
That's
Ah.
her. That's Daphne. I'm not.
No, she's oh my gosh, no, Daphne's really been on top of her stuff with this one too, and I'm over here forgetting certain names and certain scenes, and
Oh,
man, having her here has been awesome.
It's
Having
okay.
that
I
other
don't even
female
remember
perspective.
his name. By the end of the podcast, I can't even remember Jeff's
I'm
name.
sorry, who are you? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
No,
I
but
don't
it's
always
been so awesome.
Oh, Tom Brady. I start calling him Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Gosh.
So
Daphne's
Daphne,
like-
do you have any final comments?
She's like,
Um,
I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
No, I'm having so much fun. You guys have such an awesome way of making people feel comfortable, and yeah. Anyway, enough sap. We like
Aw.
horror.
Yes.
I just had so much fun watching this, and yeah, I feel like such a poseur for not having seen it before.
Wow.
I just, yeah, it was really good. I did read, I don't think I had read all the Poe stories before, so of course I had to read them first. And yeah, Matheson did really awesome with making them into these short little bits. And there was actually one part in The Black Cat where I literally did the thing where you went, when I was reading something. When Herringbone goes to kill, you think he's going to kill the cat, and then he goes right into the skull of his wife. And I was like, but yeah, so that was great, and so much fun. I also did some research on just looking at more stuff about Vincent Price, because you guys have talked about him before too, and how he was good at so many things and had so many different interests. So that they have a museum, an art museum, the Vincent Price Art Museum in Southern California. It started out, he donated some of his personal collection because he wanted to have art incorporated into, it's a community college, and it's turned into this big, it's the Vincent Price Art Museum in East Los Angeles, the East Los Angeles College, and it's a venue for underrepresented artists, and seems really cool. And then I liked also talking about all the different characters that he played in this. He would do like all sorts of stuff. Like he did you guys see Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine?
Yeah, I've seen
I
that.
got it. There's that, and then the sequel, and then he did a Historama at the Tombstone Historama in Tombstone, Arizona, which is still in operation as of 2016. He like narrates this thing.
Oh,
Very
wow.
cool.
So I don't know. And
there
he was
is a
cook and
Batman
everything.
connection. There's a
Batman connection. There you go.
Yeah.
He's Egghead, He's Egghead.
Yeah. I just love it.
On that. They actually have that as part of the trivia about him.
Oh, the Tombstone thing?
He played Eggman in Batman.
Oh,
No,
Batman, yeah.
we've been falling down on it. I haven't been looking lately. So, although we have been doing some British films, which tend to not the yeah,
I keep
he is
freezing
kind
up. So. Sorry.
Renaissance guy. What's that?
I said I keep
What'd you-
freezing up. If that's on my end, so sorry if it's messing. I
We're
feel like
good.
I'm interrupting you guys.
Oh no,
No,
you're fine.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
No, you're doing good. Good
Jeff's the one that keeps
ventriloquism.
interrupting everybody.
Yeah, I'm the problem usually. All right. Well, I read Poe when I was like, I think I was like 11 when I read Poe, and I think people like Poe and H.G. Wells are a lot more accessible when you're younger because the language doesn't bother you you know, the art, kind of the art, you know, older way of putting together sentences or more stilted way. But I love that stuff. In fact, I think I'm sure my first books were Scholastic Book Club.
Oh yeah, totally.
How can you not order books?
I know.
Man on the Moon, The Invisible Man, and oh my God, what? You'll pay for that?
Book fairs, man, kept me alive during elementary school.
Oh
Oh,
man,
yes.
those were the best.
Yeah.
And that's all I would. Anything horror related is what I would carry out. Anything that was even remotely horror related.
All right, so we do have some feedback, and this is from our Kiwi buddy Alistair Hughes about
Yay.
episode 90 on Son of Kong. And our guest host for that one was Ed Martinez, a special effects artist and stop motion animation super fan. Alistair says, "Dear Eighth Wonders of the World." He's
1, 2, 3.
yeah,
He must be counting
the
each of us twice. Yeah.
the eighth wonders of the world. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for such a brilliant Son of Kong episode, which, like all your best work, forced me to reassess a film, which I've kind of let sink beneath the waves in my own estimation. I think the problem was that I just loved the original King Kong too much. Son of Kong always struck me as a hurried attempt to cash in on the original's name, as exploitative as Denham himself when he abducted and exhibited Kiko's dad in New York. In these days of bigger, louder, longer sequels, it seems strange to look back to a time when they were often quick knockoffs, hurried into cinema to capitalize on the remaining interest in the original film. But you, Whitney, Chad, Jeff, and Ed, highlighted that the comparative lack of budget and time makes Son of Kong a better film for the human actors. Robert Armstrong, in particular, benefits from this shift in emphasis with generous screen time, allowing him to really flesh out the character of Carl Denham. No longer in a certain someone's giant shadow, Armstrong projects genuine charisma, somehow making the opportunistic huckster Denham a likable character. Take note, Jack Black.
Nice.
I like that comment. Kong's home, not actually named Skull Island until Peter Jackson's remake 8 decades later, was perhaps the world's final great place of mystery and wonder, painstakingly realized in the first film. But it is so abruptly dunked into the sea at the end that surely this is the final insult to the memory of the movie legend this sequel surely seeks to exploit. I probably should abhor Son of Kong, but I just can't. Although an obvious cash-in, the good outweighs the bad in terms of Armstrong's performance, and in young Kong's relatively few scenes, some of the original magic does still shine through. Rather than detracting from the film which came before it, as you all wisely pointed out, this sequel fills in the characters of Englehorn and Charlie and continues Denham's story in an inventive but realistic way. Who would have thought he was the real central character in these films? Although, given that he was a vague avatar for Kong creator Marion C. Cooper, perhaps it's not too surprising. But probably most of all, through its own deficiencies, Son of Kong manages to highlight the still wondrous achievements of the original King Kong even further. So, surely lessons were learned, and no one would ever again try to cobble together a sequel using leftover models, a different lead actress, and a plot involving Kong's son. Surely not, Mr. De Laurentiis. Keep up the wonderful work, Grue-Crew. You are all absolute classics, and welcome back, Joseph Alistair Hughes. I think we announced Joseph will be back the next episode. So
Here, here.
Awesome.
Very cool.
these are long ones to read, but I just can't. He put so much effort into it. I just can't do it. And it's such good, a lot of thought goes into
Yeah.
this. So yeah, Marion
really
C.
nice.
Cooper. It's been a long time since we actually did King Kong, but he was like sort of an adventurer that ran around doing these weird travel documentaries and selling them off. So it was sort of, Robert Armstrong was sort of a version of Marion C. Cooper. Great, Alistair. We appreciate it. Love having you listen. And he might appreciate something coming up. Our next film is a Hammer film. Quatermass and the
What is
Pit,
it?
1967. Directed by Roy Ward Baker, written by Nigel Neal, starring Barbara Shelley, Andrew Kerr, and James Donald. And I picked this one a lot because of Barbara Shelley's recent death, and we've done some of her movies, but I'd like to be able to talk about her a little more. So
Good, fine with me. I love Quatermass.
Nice.
Quatermass.
I cannot wait to hear you guys' discussion about it. Yay!
Awesome.
Well, true believers, that's it for this episode. But every 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on a specific film released between 1920 and 1969. Plenty of ways to stay in touch with us. Please send feedback to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com, or make sure to like, subscribe, notifications for the YouTube channel. I don't know where this stuff is.
It's all down there.
Down there somewhere. Yeah.
It's all gonna be down there. Go around Daphne.
Yeah, go around.
Leave comments. Yeah. We love comments. Catch us again here in 2 weeks for another great horror movie of the classic era, as only decades of horror can do it. Hold it a minute. I forgot Patreon. Sign up for our Patreons. I got to get that slide from Doc to use that he always puts up. But, if you go to our Patreon page for Gruesome Magazine, there is a listing of things you get for different levels. The only one that I can remember off the top of my head is you get Decades of Horror like up to 2 weeks early if you are a patron. So do it.
Awesome.
All right. Say goodnight, guys.
Good night, guys, and thanks, Daphne.
Yeah, thank you,
Good
Daphne.
night.
Good night.
This is for Jeff. Good night, Jeff.
Kitty.
Walking like, what's that? Yeah. Night, everybody.
Night,
Good
guys.
night.
Gruesome Magazine.